Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, who all this truth from the well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude, until I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. Now I'm entitled this one, you have to be bugged out to want to stay in America, because a lot of our people, of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which is the true nation of Israel, but also you got Israelites that may look like these other heathen nations, but their lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because 12 tribes have been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, so you're going to have Israelites looking like all these different nations. But the 12 tribes, the bulk of the 12 tribes are here in America, which is Babylon the Great, spoken about in the scriptures, prophesied to be destroyed by intercontinental ballistic missiles, ultimately for all the wickedness that it has caused throughout the four corners of the earth, because America is the mother of all harlots. That's why the whole world now follows after the image of the beast. All the different philosophies that Babylon has pushed out. You could be a Mo, you could, be black, you could be a Latino, a Mexican, a Native American. And our people, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, they have been duped by the white man, Esau, Edom. But ultimately, it was Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to put it up on their spirit, to not receive this truth, to not receive the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, to understand, why everything is the way it is, why everything's so wicked. And ultimately, them being blinded by the Lord leads them to be okay with everything that goes around, because they've been in Babylon so great that it's to the point they're okay with all the wickedness that goes down. They're okay with staying in America and continue to work these 9-to-5s, these dead-end jobs. And even if Jake is making a lot of money, they're okay with all the wickedness. A lot of Jake sells out to Esau, Edom for crumbs. The Tyler Perrys, the Kanye West, and even Jake. Was Jake that may not be in the celebrity industry, but they're still willing to sell out and compromise their morals for the bag. Especially these Jakes that know that they're Israelites. These Israelites that are teaching false doctrines, they have sold out to Esau, Edom for the 501c3 so they can get funding. But ultimately, they have to sell out. They even have to sell out their congregation, because they're not warning their congregation that America is about to be destroyed, that all hell's about to break loose. So ultimately, they have a lot of blood on their hands for not warning their people to get in the right mindset, for them to haste the day, for them to want it to be delivered out of this captivity, because ultimately only the elect of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai want to be delivered. They want to be safe. They want this place to be destroyed. The rest of these Jakes, they're okay with all the wickedness that goes on here in America, but ultimately that's going to lead to their despise, because when Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai starts judging Jake, a lot of these Jakes out here that, ultimately, you do have a lot of cool Jake, they may have not been doing wickedness like that, but, they were still worshiping these other gods, worshiping these other idols, going to church, worshiping white Jesus, and that's still going to lead them to get put to death. This is Isaiah 29 and verse 9. Stay yourselves in wonder, cry ye out and cry. They are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. So that's majority of our people. They're drunken off of the philosophies, off of the Babylonian wine, off of the image of the beast, that do as thou wilt spirit, following after the vibration of Satan, the vibration of Esau, Edom, that fast food lifestyle, that instant gratification, that I want it now, the Esau, Edom, the Esau syndrome. He sold his birthright for a morsel of meat, and that's the vibration that majority of our people are in. They want it now. They follow after the lust of the flesh. They can't wait They lack patience. And that's ultimately what's going to lead majority of our people to take the MOTB. For not, a lot of our people, they're not used to fasting. They're going to bug out after not eating for 12 hours. How much more a couple days our people are going to completely lose it for being drunken off of the ways of Babylon the Great. Verse 10, for the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel Shai had poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and had closed your eyes, the prophets and your rulers, the seers had thee covered. So ultimately it was the Lord who put these 2/3 and their false prophet leaders to not wake up to the fact that America is about to be destroyed by intercontinental ballistic missiles. That all hell is about to break loose because Yahweh Bashmiel Shai doesn't want majority of Jake to be delivered. Ultimately, only the 1/3 is going to be delivered here in America. Starting with some of the 144,000 and wherever they may be scattered, but also the rest of the 1/3 here in America, that large multitude, the believers, friends, helps, family of the prophets, those are the ones who are going to be delivered, ultimately because they weren't in that mindset of wanting to stay here, unlike the 2/3. This is Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 4. And the Lord Yahweh Bashmiel Shai said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh, and they cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And ultimately, Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. And whereas the bulk of the 12 tribes around the world is here in America. And this is where all the wickedness that goes on around the earth started. The mother of all harlots, America. And ultimately, the elect are sighing and crying because they see all the wickedness, how the world is being ran, how our people are behaving, how the white man and Keisha and Eve and the black woman are over the Israelite man. And, we see everything that goes around, all these moles walking around, how our people are so gone and so degenerate. And it vexes us. We like, damn, Lord, can you, just destroy this wicked-ass place, America, Babylon the Great? How long does it have to continue on for? How long do we have to behold all this wickedness? Like Lot was vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked, and we're in that same spirit today. Us to the hopeful, the elect. But the rest of our people, they're not gonna have that mark of exemption, because they weren't signing crying. They were okay with all the wickedness that was going around them. This is Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. O rise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with a sword destruction. Yeah, and ultimately, that's only going to be the elect who are going to be departing and detaching themselves from Babylon the Great. Not wanting to stay here for eternity, unlike 2/3 of our people who aren't arising and departing, who are making America their rest. That's going to be their biggest mistake, because when everything gets taken away, with all the dainties and all the wealth that they've built up over the years gets wiped out, in an instant they're going to be bugging out, because they made Babylon the Great. But the elect, they're detaching themselves spiritually, mentally, and somewhat even physically, not following after, certain desires of the flesh, even if it's lawful. Ultimately, it's not expedient in the times we're in. This is Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 14. For here we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. So this city, this current rulership, this current kingdom, Babylon the Great, being ran by Esau, Edom, this it ain't it. It's polluted as all hell. From the water to the food to the air to the way these people think, completely bugged out. This isn't our rest, but yet 2/3 Jake, they don't get it. They think that this is as good as it gets. America, Babylon the Great, working a 9 to 5 till you retire in your 60s and you get a 401k. Nowadays you got Jake, they don't even live till they're 60. They're dropping dead by how polluted everything is, from the air being spread with chemtrails, water being filled with fluoride, and all these GMO foods. Ultimately, only the elect are going to be in a mindset of looking forward towards the kingdom of heaven. The rest of these Jakes, they're going to want to stay here in America. is Isaiah 51 and verse 14. The captive exile hasteth that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail. So we're captives. We know that we're in captivity, that we're in slavery, and that we need deliverance. The rest of these jakes, a lot of them know they're slaves, but they're okay with that. As long as you got their 9 to 5, they're able to go to the grocery store and drive their car to work. Go out to the clubs and the bars during the weekends and chill with their boo. They're okay with captivity. They're chilling. You give Jake a 1-bedroom apartment in a Hellcat, and they think that they're in heaven. But very soon, all that's gonna get wiped out. And ultimately, we know that we're gonna have to walk away from all these jobs. All the houses, leave cars behind. We might even have to leave our family behind. But ultimately, we know that's what we have to endure, because the kingdom of heaven, to get to the kingdom, is a straight gate. The majority of Jake, they're not willing to do that. That's why they don't want to leave America. They don't want to walk through that straight gate, because then they would have to go through that straight and narrow path with fire on one side and water on the other, where you could fall. But ultimately, the elect are going to be the only ones willing to walk the path. The rest of these Jakes, they're in that mindset of wanting to stay here in America and continue following after the image of the beast. But ultimately, that's going to lead to their destruction. But that's pretty much the point. I pray that this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learn this truth from and who do it well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Until I say shalom.